In the dead of night in October 1871, a band of Comanche warriors, cloaked in darkness, swept down upon an unsuspecting U.S. Army encampment along the Texas frontier. With breathtaking precision, they unleashed chaos, scattering soldiers in panic, seizing nearly 70 horses, and vanishing into the moonlit expanse of the Great Plains before the troops could muster a response. At the helm of this audacious raid was Quanah Parker, a young Comanche chief whose name would soon echo across the frontier as a symbol of defiance. This strike was not an isolated act, but a vivid chapter in a decades-long struggle between the Comanche people, known to themselves as the Numunu, and the relentless tide of American expansion that sought to wrest their ancestral lands for white settlers. The Texas frontier in the 1870s was a crucible of conflict, forged by the collision of two worlds. The Comanches, masters of the southern plains, had long resisted encroachments by Spanish, Mexican, and now American forces. Their raids struck fear into settlers and soldiers alike as they defended a way of life centered on the buffalo and the horse. Yet the United States, emboldened by its victory in the Civil War and driven by manifest destiny, intensified its campaign to subdue the Comanches and clear the plains for homesteaders. Leading this effort was Colonel Ranald S. Mackenzie, a battle-hardened veteran of the 4th U.S. Cavalry, renowned for his ruthless efficiency. Tasked with crushing Comanche resistance, Mackenzie pursued Quanah's band across the sprawling grasslands from summer to winter, navigating the rugged terrain of the Llano Estacado and the Red River Valley. But Quanah was no ordinary adversary. At just 23 years old, he wielded an intimate knowledge of the plains, honed by a lifetime among the Quahada band. His warriors moved like shadows, striking swiftly and melting into the landscape. Each time Mackenzie's troops drew near, they found only empty campsites, the Comanches slipping away without a trace. This deadly game of pursuit and evasion underscored the brilliance of Quanah's leadership and the enduring resilience of the Comanche way of war. In 1871, the raid on the Army camp was more than a tactical victory. It was a defiant proclamation that the Comanches would not yield their homeland without a fight, even as the forces arrayed against them grew ever more formidable. For nearly 2 centuries, the Comanche people, known to themselves as the Numunu, reigned supreme over the vast expanses of the Great Plains, their dominion stretching from the rolling hills of Texas to the high prairies of Kansas. From the late 1600s to the mid-1800s, they carved out an empire not through centralized power, but through a dynamic tapestry of nomadic bands, each fiercely independent yet united by an unparalleled mastery of horsemanship. Their lives revolved around the buffalo, whose herds sustained their sustenance, clothing, and shelter, and the horse, which transformed them into the most formidable cavalry of the American frontier. With entire villages moving fluidly across the plains, the Comanches wove a way of life that was as resilient as it was adaptive, defying the ambitions of empires and tribes alike. The Comanche Empire stood as a bulwark against incursions from every direction. From the south, Spanish and later Mexican forces launched repeated campaigns to subdue them, only to be repelled by lightning-fast raids that struck deep into Chihuahua and Durango, sometimes hundreds of miles from Comanche territory. In 1758, a Spanish expedition at San Saba was crushed by Comanche warriors, a stark warning to colonial powers. From the east, the United States, emboldened after annexing Texas in 1845, faced similar resistance as Comanche raiders targeted settlements along the frontier, from Austin to San Antonio. Other indigenous nations, including the Apache, Ute, and Osage, vied for control of the plains, but found themselves outmatched by the Comanches' tactical brilliance and mobility. This was no monolithic state, but a constellation of bands, such as the Quahada, Noconi, and Yamparica, each led by its own chief, yet bound by a shared culture of equestrian prowess. At their zenith in the early 1800s, the Comanches numbered perhaps 40,000. Their influence radiating across a territory larger than many European nations. By the 1870s, disease, warfare, and displacement had reduced their population to an estimated 4,000 to 5,000, yet their reputation as warriors endured. The heart of their power lay in their riders, men and women trained from childhood to wield bows and lances from galloping steeds with deadly precision. A single Comanche warrior could fire up to 20 arrows in the time it took a soldier to reload a musket, a disparity that turned battles into routs. This extraordinary skill, born of a culture where the horse was both tool and kin, made the Comanches not just defenders of their homeland, but architects of an empire that reshaped the history of the American Southwest. In the heart of the Comanche nation, where every man, woman, and child rode with the grace of the wind, a young warrior named Quanah Parker emerged as a beacon of resilience and leadership. By the 1870s, the Comanches, once a mighty people numbering perhaps 40,000 at their zenith in the early 1800s, had dwindled to a mere 4,000 to 5,000 souls, battered by disease, warfare, and the relentless advance of American settlers. Yet their prowess as horsemen remained unmatched, their warriors wielding bows and lances from galloping steeds with a precision that left both rival tribes and U.S. soldiers in awe. It was in this crucible of survival that Quanah, born around 1848, forged his destiny, rising from tragedy to become one of the youngest chiefs in Comanche history. Quanah was the eldest son of Peta Nocona, a revered leader of the Noconi Band, and Cynthia Ann Parker, a white settler abducted as a child in 1836 and transformed into a Comanche woman known as Nadua. Raised in the traditions of the Numunu, Quanah learned to ride before he could walk, his life intertwined with the rhythms of the plains. But in 1860, when he was just 12, tragedy struck. Texas Rangers and U.S. troops ambushed his family's camp along the Peace River, capturing his mother, Nadua, and his infant sister, Prairie Flower. Quanah and his younger brother fled, their world shattered, finding refuge among the Quahada, a fierce Comanche band known for their unyielding resistance to American encroachment. In the rugged canyons of the Llano Estacado, Quanah honed his skills as a warrior, his resolve tempered by loss, and his vision sharpened by the need to protect his people. By his early 20s, Quanah's courage and charisma had begun to draw notice. Around 1870, at the age of 22, he defied tradition by eloping with Wek Ka, a young woman from a prominent Comanche family. Her father, a powerful chief, and other elders condemned the union, forcing the couple to flee into the wilderness of the southern plains. For a year, they lived as outcasts, moving stealthily to evade pursuit. Yet, in this crucible of adversity, Quanah's leadership shone. His daring and resolve attracted a loyal following of young warriors who saw in him a leader capable of defying both Comanche tradition and American might. By 1871, this band of renegades had coalesced into a formidable force, and Quanah was anointed as a Parebo, or chief, an extraordinary honor for one so young. Under his command, the Quahada Band became a phantom presence on the plains, striking U.S. outposts with precision and vanishing before retribution could follow, preserving the Comanche way of life against overwhelming odds. In the early 1870s, the Comanche nation, once lords of the southern plains, faced an existential crisis that would shatter their way of life. The buffalo, the lifeblood of their culture, fell in staggering numbers as American hunters, driven by a booming market for hides in cities like New York and Philadelphia, unleashed a slaughter of apocalyptic proportions. Between 1870 and 1874, millions of bison perished across the Great Plains, their carcasses left to rot under the relentless sun, stripping the Comanches of the food, clothing, and shelter that had sustained them for centuries. This ecological catastrophe was compounded by a devastating military blow in September 1874, when U.S. troops under Colonel Ranald S. Mackenzie descended upon the Quahada Band's stronghold in Palo Duro Canyon. In a meticulously planned dawn assault, Mackenzie's forces killed or captured nearly 1,400 horses, the beating heart of Comanche mobility and warfare, leaving the Quahada warriors bereft of their most vital asset. The loss of the buffalo and the destruction of their horses plunged the Comanches into a desperate struggle for survival. Without bison to hunt, starvation loomed as winter approached, its icy grip threatening to decimate the already dwindling population of 4,000 to 5,000. Without horses, the Quahada could no longer evade the U.S. Army's relentless pursuit or sustain their nomadic existence across the vast Llano Estacado. Quanah Parker, the young chief who had vowed to fight until the last, faced an agonizing truth. Resistance was no longer tenable. The plains, once a boundless realm of freedom, had become a trap, encircled by American soldiers and stripped of the resources that had defined Comanche power. In June 1875, with heavy heart but unyielding resolve to preserve his people, Quanah led the Quahada Band to the Fort Sill Reservation in Oklahoma, a place where the rhythms of the buffalo hunt would be replaced by the constraints of a new and uncertain world. This surrender marked the end of the Comanche Empire, a dominion that had defied empires and reshaped the Southwest for nearly 2 centuries. Yet, even in defeat, Quanah's decision was not one of capitulation, but of strategic survival, a testament to his leadership in the face of overwhelming odds. The journey to Fort Sill was not merely a retreat, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one where Quanah would redefine what it meant to be Comanche in a world that sought to erase them. In the summer of 1875, the Comanche people, stripped of their buffalo and horses, arrived at the Fort Sill Reservation in Oklahoma, their once vibrant empire reduced to a memory. As hunter-gatherers whose lives had been defined by the rhythms of the Great Plains, they faced a daunting challenge, adapting to an agricultural existence alien to their traditions. The U.S. government, bound by the 1867 Medicine Lodge Treaty to provide rations and supplies, delivered only meager provisions, leaving the Comanches to grapple with hunger and despair. Quanah Parker, the young chief who had led the Quahada Band in their final stand, entered this new world at a profound disadvantage. Lacking the wealth or influence of Comanche leaders who had settled at Fort Sill years earlier, such as the Penateca Band, he stood on the margins of power. Yet, in the face of adversity, Quanah's vision and tenacity would transform him into a beacon of hope, redefining survival for his people. Amid the rolling grasslands of the reservation, Quanah spied an opportunity where others saw only desolation. The vast prairies, useless to a people unaccustomed to ranching, were a gold mine for American cattlemen seeking grazing lands for their burgeoning herds. With characteristic foresight, Quanah initiated a discreet arrangement, leasing portions of the reservation to ranchers in exchange for payments that breathed new life into the Comanche economy. By the late 1870s, he boldly negotiated formal leasing agreements with the U.S. government, securing a steady stream of income that empowered his people to purchase food and goods, reducing their dependence on erratic federal aid. This economic lifeline, born of Quanah's ingenuity, marked a pivotal shift, enabling the Comanches to reclaim a measure of autonomy in a system designed to subjugate them. As Quanah's influence grew, so did his impact on the reservation's future. He tirelessly advocated for better rations, ensuring his people no longer faced the specter of starvation. He championed the construction of schools to educate Comanche children in sturdy houses to replace makeshift shelters, laying the foundation for a community that could endure. By the early 1880s, Quanah's leadership earned him a seat as one of 3 tribal judges on the reservation's Court of Indian Offenses, where he adjudicated disputes with a blend of Comanche tradition and American law. His rising stature caught the attention of U.S. officials who, frustrated by the complexity of negotiating with multiple Comanche bands, sought a single chief to represent the nation, a role unprecedented in their decentralized culture. Remarkably, Quanah garnered support not only from his people, who saw in him the same resolve that had defied the U.S. Army, but also from his former adversary, Colonel Ranald S. Mackenzie, now a begrudging admirer of his foe's acumen. By the end of the decade, Quanah stood as the preeminent leader of the Comanches, a testament to his ability to navigate the treacherous currents of a changing world while safeguarding the spirit of his people. Quanah Parker's journey from warrior to diplomat culminated in a legacy that transcended the boundaries of culture and time, earning him the admiration of even his fiercest foes. By the 1880s, Colonel Ranald S. Mackenzie, once Quanah's relentless pursuer across the plains, endorsed his appointment as the principal chief of the Comanches, a testament to the respect Quanah commanded. Embracing his role as a cultural ambassador, Quanah ventured into the heart of American society, appearing in early Hollywood films that romanticized the West and forging friendships with influential figures, including President Theodore Roosevelt, whose 1905 inaugural parade in Washington, D.C. featured Quanah riding proudly in traditional regalia. Yet he remained steadfastly Comanche, his long braids a symbol of unbroken heritage, and his advocacy for the Native American Church a bulwark against cultural erasure, championing the sacred use of peyote in spiritual ceremonies that sustained his people's soul. Adopting his mother's surname, Quanah Parker honored his dual heritage while seeking to reconnect with his past. He tirelessly searched for his mother, Cynthia Ann Parker, and his sister, Prairie Flower, only to learn of their tragic fates. Cynthia Ann, torn from her Comanche family after the 1860 Pease River Raid, succumbed to illness and despair in 1871, while Prairie Flower died in 1864. These losses deepened Quanah's resolve to preserve the Comanche spirit in a world determined to reshape it. His life became a masterclass in adaptation, navigating the complexities of American bureaucracy, Comanche tradition, and personal grief with a resilience that inspired awe. Though not without critics, some of whom questioned his embrace of American ways, Quanah's leadership redefined what it meant to be Comanche in an era of profound change. When Quanah passed away on February 23, 1911, at his Star House in Cache, Oklahoma, the Comanches mourned the loss of a visionary. In his honor, they adopted the term chairman for their elected leader, a modern title that echoed Quanah's role as the last traditional chief and the first to guide his people into a new century. His legacy endures in the Comanche Nation, which today thrives with over 16,000 enrolled citizens, their numbers a testament to the survival Quanah fought for. From the ashes of a vanquished empire, Quanah Parker forged a path of resilience and renewal, ensuring that the Comanche spirit would not only endure but flourish, a beacon of hope for generations to come.